So, you got paid $4,000 and didn't show up? Judge Judy's voice sliced through the courtroom like a cold gust of truth. The plaintiff, Mr. Mastro Matteo, blinked either from shock or the realization that this performance was going to flop hard. He stood stiffly in a blazer that screamed gig manager on a budget. His hair slicked back just enough to say, "I'm serious," but not enough to say, "I planned for court today." On paper, he was a hard-working musician, a man trying to get what was owed to him. But in Judge Judy's courtroom, paper meant nothing without logic, and logic was not on his side. The defendants, let's call them Mr. and Mrs. Wedding Panic, sat at the defense podium looking tired, annoyed, and above all, over it. Their story: they'd hired Mastro Matteo's company to perform at their wedding. A dueling piano show. Big night. Big deal. The contract was signed, the $4,000 payment was made, and everything was set until it wasn't. Judge Judy raised an eyebrow, sensing chaos already brewing. "You were supposed to play at their wedding, correct?" she asked the plaintiff. "Yes, Your Honor. And what date did you put down for that performance?" Mastro Matteo hesitated. October. Cue gasps, not from the audience but internally, from every viewer watching this unfold. "Was the wedding on October 7th? Judge Judy asked with a tone soaked in disbelief. "No, Your Honor, it was September 7th. There it was, the fatal typo, a 30-day difference that turned a dream wedding into a courtroom case. According to the couple, they discovered the issue the day before their big day when the bride made a courtesy call to confirm details, and the plaintiff told her, 'Oh no, I have you booked for October.' Insert meltdown. Picture it: flowers arranged, guests en route, vows written, and no band." The bride's voice quivered slightly as she recounted the panic. "We were in the middle of our rehearsal walkthrough when I realized there was no music for the next day. He said he had us down for the wrong date." Judge Judy pursed her lips. "So what happened next?" The plaintiff quickly jumped in. "I found them a replacement band, Your Honor, within hours." "And how much did that cost?" Judy asked, bracing herself. "That includes $600 for the musicians and $600 to rent the equipment, because I couldn't go personally." "Right," she said, dragging the word out like a drawn bowstring. "So you paid $1,200, but you still received the original $4,000 fee?" "Yes." Judge Judy's eye twitched, not visibly, but spiritually. You could feel the temperature drop. "So, let me get this straight," she continued. "You got paid $4,000, you didn't show up, and you're here today to ask for more money." The audience shifted. Even the court bailiff Bird looked ready to roll his eyes. "I just want what's in the contract," the plaintiff defended. "There were late fees." "Oh, honey," Judge Judy said flatly, "you should have just said thank you and stayed home today." It was hard to tell who the audience sympathized with more at that point: the clearly stressed couple who nearly had their wedding ruined, or the plaintiff, whose attempt at double-dipping was crumbling fast under the judge's sarcasm. And the best part, the plaintiff actually brought a witness, a woman named Phyllis, who was apparently originally supposed to perform with him. Judge Judy glanced at her, then waved her off without a word. "I don't need a witness," she said. "What I need is an explanation." But Mastro Matteo didn't have a good one. Instead, he started talking about years of building connections, sending performer videos, and last-minute stress. Judge Judy wasn't impressed. Her expression was now in full "do I look like I care" mode. "You made $2,800 for 2 hours of scrambling and sending emails," she snapped. "That's not stress, that's profit." The plaintiff tried again, this time with the emotional violin playing softly in the background of his words. "I just want to be compensated fairly, Your Honor. This took a toll." "The only toll you took," Judge Judy cut in, "was on their bank account." Boom. Chapter 1. And the gavel hasn't even hit the bench yet. Judge Judy leaned back slightly, her eyes narrowing like a hawk that just spotted its prey. The courtroom had quieted, but the tension had only just begun to simmer. This wasn't just a disagreement over a calendar error anymore. This was a showdown between inflated ego and cold, hard logic. "So," she said slowly, folding her hands in front of her, "tell me again, Master Mateo, why exactly are we here?" The plaintiff stood a little straighter, mistaking her question for an invitation rather than a warning. "Your Honor, according to our contract, the defendants agreed to certain terms. They violated those terms by changing the date and expecting service without renegotiating. I found replacements out of courtesy, but there were late fees, last-minute coordination charges, and damages to our business reputation." Judge Judy blinked. "Reputation?" she echoed dryly. "You wrote down the wrong date." The courtroom chuckled under its breath. Even Bird looked like he was biting the inside of his cheek to stay professional. "I understand that," the plaintiff said quickly, "but I still provided a service, and the contract includes late penalties for changes." "Let me stop you right there," Judy cut in. "You didn't provide your service. You subcontracted musicians after you screwed up the date. And you got paid $4,000. She let the number hang in the air like a heavy cloud. "Out of that you spent $1,200 to fix your own mistake. And now you're asking for more because you feel underappreciated." The plaintiff shifted uncomfortably. "That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said, just with more syllables." Cue Bird quietly coughing into his sleeve to hide a laugh. Judge Judy turned her attention to the defendants. "What was your understanding of the agreement?" The groom leaned forward nervously. "He sent us a questionnaire instead of a standard contract. We filled it out with the correct date, September 7th, and returned it. We assumed everything was settled. Did you receive a confirmation?" "Yes, but it must have been a mistake on his end." Judge Judy waved the printed form the plaintiff had submitted. "You wrote October 7th here," she said, holding it up like a burning piece of evidence. "This is your handwriting, correct?" "Yes. And you didn't double-check that with the couple?" "I did. A few days before the day." "No, you didn't." The bride snapped, unable to stay silent. "You called me the day before my wedding and told me you weren't coming." Judge Judy turned to her, eyebrows raised. "The day before? Yes. During our final walkthrough. Around noon." "And how long did it take Mr. Master Mateo to fix the situation?" "By around 2:30 p.m. he had a substitute band and gear ready." Judy turned back to the plaintiff, her voice dripping with disbelief. "So you worked for 2.5 hours, didn't attend the wedding, didn't lift a finger on the actual day, and you want extra money?" The plaintiff opened his mouth to object but thought better of it. "Let me ask you something," Judge Judy said, holding up her finger like a conductor signaling a final note. "If you had actually performed at the wedding, would you still be here asking for late fees?" "Maybe, depending on how things played out." Judge Judy rolled her eyes so hard it could have reset the solar system. "You would not, sir. This isn't about a contract. This is about your ego being bruised because they didn't thank you with confetti and champagne after you bailed on their big day." "I didn't bail." "You did," she snapped. "They called you in full panic mode, and you had them listed for the wrong month. If your job is weddings, your one job is to show up on the correct date. I fixed it. Yes, for $1,200 out of the $4,000 you already pocketed. Do you think you deserve applause?" He blinked. "I think I deserve the fees we agreed to." Judge Judy smiled, but it wasn't the warm kind. It was the kind of smile wolves give before biting. "And that's why you're losing today," she said sharply. "Because instead of being grateful they didn't sue you, you came in here thinking you could turn your own mistake into a profit." The plaintiff looked stunned, but Judy wasn't done. "Let's pretend, just for a second, that you were the victim. What would you be asking for?" "Emotional damage, business disruption." He stammered. "Well, I wouldn't go that far." "Good, because this courtroom doesn't reward fantasies." She flipped through the contract again and shook her head. "You know what your biggest mistake was?" she asked him. He shook his head cautiously. "You tried to charge late fees on a date you got wrong. That's like suing someone for being late to a party you forgot to invite them to." Another quiet laugh rolled through the room. "And you," she turned to the couple, "are lucky you got any music at all. Next time, use a real contract, not a fill-in-the-blank quiz from Craigslist." The bride nodded solemnly, while the groom looked like he'd just aged 5 years in the span of 10 minutes. With that, Judge Judy folded her arms. "We're almost done here," she said, glaring at the plaintiff. "Unless you've got a voicemail from God proving you deserve more money, I suggest you stop while you're behind." Silence. She leaned back again. "That's what I thought." Judge Judy sat still for a moment, flipping through the contract printout like it was the script to a particularly bad play. You could feel the room shift. Something was coming. And when she spoke, her tone was low, surgical, like she was preparing to cut right through the nonsense. "Master Mateo," she began, tapping the papers with a long finger, "I want you to listen carefully to what I'm about to ask." He nodded, cautiously. "You claim you're owed late fees. According to you, the contract outlines penalties for last-minute changes." "Yes, Your Honor, but the only reason there was a last-minute change," she said, voice sharpening, "is because you got the date wrong." "That's debatable," he muttered. "I don't do debatable," she snapped. "I do facts." Boom. The courtroom braced. Even Bird stopped his quiet fidgeting. Judge Judy slid the contract questionnaire toward the camera. This document here was filled out by you, correct?" "Yes." "And the section where you wrote the event date, who typed that in?" "I did." "And you put October 7th instead of September 7th?" "Yeah, but I only did that after getting their form back. Their handwriting wasn't totally clear." Judge Judy's face flattened into a smirk of disbelief. "Oh, so now it's their fault that you can't read a 7. It looked like a 10. So when in doubt you get—" "I clarified it eventually." Her voice raised half a pitch. "Eventually? That bride called you the day before her wedding." The plaintiff was starting to sweat, not from nerves but from the realization that the last 15 minutes of this case had just turned into a courtroom roast. "Let's be clear," Judge Judy continued. "You were not misled. You misread. And instead of double-checking the most important detail, the wedding date, you went on autopilot, didn't confirm, and then panicked when they called you." I responded professionally. "You responded 2 hours before she had a meltdown," she retorted. "That's not professional. That's lucky." Then came the twist. "Do you have a copy of the text messages between you and the bride from that day?" "Yes," the plaintiff said, retrieving a small stack of papers. Judge Judy motioned him forward, and Bird brought the papers over. She squinted at the page. "Hey, just confirming you're all set for tomorrow. Can't wait to hear the dueling pianos," she read aloud, quoting the bride's message. "And your response? Tomorrow? I have you down for let me check." She looked up slowly, tilting her head. "That's how you clarified?" I followed up quickly. "After she triggered your memory. And right here. Oh crap. That's my mistake. I'll see what I can do." The audience practically leaned in. "Oh crap. That's your professional response? That's how you reassure a bride the day before her wedding?" He squirmed. "I was trying to be casual." "No. You were trying to be cute. And it's not cute when people are on the verge of crying because there's no music at their reception." Then she held up the next message, one that flipped the whole tone of the case. "Don't worry. I'll fix it. I'll cover the costs. Totally my bad." That was what he texted the bride. Judge Judy raised an eyebrow so high it nearly left her face. "You said that?" she asked slowly. "I was trying to calm her down." "Right. And then you turned around and sued her for late fees?" Silence. The audience collectively inhaled. "You literally admitted fault in writing, and now you want us to pretend you're the injured party." He tried to salvage. "That was just to defuse the moment." "Oh no, sir. That's not how this works." She turned to the couple. "Did he ever tell you there'd be late fees or extra charges for the last-minute switch?" "No," said the groom. "He said it was his fault and that he'd take care of it." Judge Judy chuckled, then looked back at the plaintiff. "Do you see the problem here?" she asked. "You reassured the client that you would fix things, told them you'd eat the cost, and now you want me to hand you a check out of guilt?" The plaintiff's face was now a blend of red and regret. "I just thought, no. You hoped that showing up here with a printed contract and vague references to years of experience would impress me enough to ignore your own words. But guess what? He didn't respond. You brought your own shovel. All I did was let you dig." The audience was fully on Judy's side now. No need to fake a villain. He had typed his own downfall, literally. "And by the way," she added, flipping one last page, This whole thing about your equipment rent, that was your problem, not theirs. You were unavailable because of your own error. I sent performers high-quality ones. You sent them because you had no choice," she said. "You're not getting points for cleaning a mess you made with your own hand." Then came the line everyone would quote in the comment section. "You can't invoice people for your guilt." The room went still. Even Phyllis, the awkward witness who never got to speak, looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. Judge Judy placed the papers down with finality, lips pursed in quiet judgment. "What you wanted here today was an encore," she said, "but what you're getting is silence." The courtroom had gone quiet, not with peace, but with anticipation. Judge Judy sat forward slowly, like a lion deciding whether the prey deserved mercy or one last bite. The plaintiff, Mr. Mastramacho, now resembled a man who had wandered into the wrong courtroom and was beginning to realize there was no exit. "You know what bothers me most about this case," Judge Judy said finally, glancing from the plaintiff to the defendants and back again. "It's not that you made a mistake. People make mistakes. It's that you made a mistake, tried to profit from it, and then walked in here hoping I wouldn't notice." Mastramacho opened his mouth to respond, but she cut him off with a single raised hand. The famous nope hand. "You were paid $4,000 for a service you did not perform. You admitted, in your own text, that it was your fault. You fixed the problem by outsourcing it, costing you $1,200, and somehow decided you were owed even more for your inconvenience." She leaned in now, voice sharpening like a scalpel. "Sir, being mildly stressed for 2 hours is not grounds for legal compensation. That's called life. That's called adulting." The gallery was holding back chuckles again. The bride gave a faint smile, while her husband looked like a man who had just been publicly vindicated by a higher power. "And let me be extra clear," she added, "if these two had sued you, for emotional distress, for breach of contract, for failing to confirm one of the most important dates of their lives, they'd have a case." Mastramacho swallowed hard, but they didn't. Instead, they paid the full amount. They didn't demand a refund. They didn't try to destroy your business. They thanked you and moved on. And how do you repay that? She didn't wait for the answer. You show up in court, waving fine print and fabricated fees, like you're a Fortune 500 company trying to squeeze a few extra bucks out of newlywed. Judy tilted her head. "Newsflash, this courtroom isn't a cash register for your guilt." Bird nodded subtly from the side. He'd seen enough. Judge Judy took a deep breath, her voice dropping into that final, infamous verdict mode, the tone that meant the curtain is coming down. "Here's what's going to happen," she said. "You're not getting a dime. Not for late fees, not for stress, not for years of connections you leveraged, because none of that was requested or required. What you did was fix your own error, then tried to hand them the bill for your ego." She paused for emphasis. "Your case is dismissed." Bang. No gavel necessary. The tone alone did the damage. The plaintiff stood motionless, blinking like he had just been unplugged from reality. His lips parted slightly as if to say something, then closed again. Wise choice. Across the aisle, the couple looked visibly relieved. The bride smiled with a soft exhale. The groom nodded, and Bird handed them back their paperwork like it was a badge of honor. But Judge Judy wasn't quite done. "Let this be a lesson," she said, addressing the camera now. Or maybe just the next wannabe plaintiff, who thought courtroom trickery could outshine common sense. If you mess up a wedding, don't expect applause for bringing duct tape, especially when you were the one who tore it apart in the first place. She stood. "You don't get money for being a fool." Case closed. And just like that it was over.